Dr. White, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about predetermination. You state that faith is a gift from God, and Ephesians 2-6, for by grace you have been saved through faith and not of yourselves. It is a gift from God as a result, not as a result of works, that no one should boast.
That's actually Ephesians 2:8 and 9.
Yes. Where is the free will if God can save to the uttermost and chooses not to? If faith is a gift, how am I to be blamed for God not giving me faith?
You're not blamed for God not giving you faith. You're blamed for your sin and your rebellion and your refusal to repent. Giving someone the gift of faith is an act of grace. It's not the basis upon which you're sent to hell. Your sin is the basis upon which you're sent to hell.
Say it again.
Your sin and your guilt before God is the basis upon which you are justly condemned. Grace goes beyond the categories of mercy, of justice. Grace and mercy go beyond those categories, sir.
So God can save to the uttermost. Jesus can save to the uttermost. And that's all completely up to God. He can choose by his grace to soften my heart, turn it from stone to flesh, and make me a Christian.
Even you, yes, sir.
Even me.
Even you.
But he chooses not to. And if I die in this state, right here, right now, I'm damned. Yes?
Yes, sir. In fact, the biblical teaching is the wrath of God abides, present tense, upon you right now.
The wrath of God.
Yes.
Yes. How is that fair?
Fair?
How is it fair?
It is, in fact, well, you know what? It isn't fair, because if it was only fair, God would bring his wrath to bear upon you right now. He's extending grace and mercy to you in patience.
So I need to thank God that he hasn't sent me to hell yet.
Yes, sir. Yes. In fact, I would say that's quite true.
That's good.
No question about it. But, yeah, so if you're talking about strict fairness in the sense of bringing about the punishment immediately, then God has always demonstrated mercy and grace, even in extending life and patience to people and not bringing his judgment to bear immediately.
But once again, I'm predestined. Wherever I'm going to go, I'm predestined. God knows where I'm going to go, whether or not I'm going to hell, whether or not I'm going to accept Jesus.
Is that a question or a statement?
It's a question.
Okay, could you put it in the form of a question?
Does God already know where I'm going to go, when I'm going to go, and if I'm going to accept Jesus?
I noticed you changed the question, and I find that interesting, because the original statement was you were predestined to do something, and as I said in my response in the rebuttal period, you do what you desire to do. I've heard many an atheist, when I debated Dan Barker, he said, I don't want to be in the presence of your God. When I die, I want to go to hell, so I will be as far away from your God as possible. And God will grant him his wish.
All right.
Unless he changes his heart, which of course is my prayer both for him and for you. But again, if you don't have the desire to be in the presence of God, why would you say it's unfair if he doesn't bring you into his presence?
My question was, am I predestined?
I do believe that, but see, I need to differentiate some. That's why I asked you to put it in the form of a question.
Okay. Am I
predestined?
Because
predestination has two forms. You have the positive act of God, whereby he extends his grace to save his elect. In regards to the others, that's not an extension of grace, even an extension of power. It is simple justice, because they are already fallen in Adam. And so they are not, there's something called equal ultimacy that we deny. They are not the same act except just the positive and negative side. To save someone, God must extend incredible grace. To judge someone, God really doesn't have to do anything at all other than just simply bring his justice to bear.
But God can extend that incredible grace anytime he wants to without effort. It's not an effort.
Without effort? No, it's actually the very power that raised the Son of God from the grave. It is a massive effort. It is the greatest power.
God is all-powerful, though. All-powerful means anything can be done without effort.
No, I don't believe that's what all-powerful means. I disagree with the foundation of your question.
Oh, what does all powerful mean?
Well, having all power does not mean that there is an equal extension of power to do anything. To raise a rebel sinner to spiritual life is a fundamentally different thing than making a tree grow. Those are different kinds of things. And according to the New Testament, there is great power involved in the resurrection of a sinner to spiritual life. It is a miracle that is, I think, even greater than the resurrection of the dead recorded in John 11 or elsewhere in the Gospels.
Are you suggesting that God could actually get tired?
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay,
I'm simply
so-
recognizing that the Scriptures themselves use that language to talk about the power that raised Jesus from the grave is the same power that animates believers.
Perhaps I'm not being clear. If God is all-powerful, that means he has an unlimited amount of power, and therefore it doesn't matter how much power it takes to do something, he can do it with relatively no effort.
The New Testament does not agree with your assessment of omnipotence.
Okay. Still, let's talk about free will. If we're talking about something that is predetermined, pre-known, why are we going through this whole life exercise in the first place?
Well, whose free will are you talking about? Are you talking about God's
Mine.
or ours? Yours.
Mine, my personal free will.
Okay.
Do I
so
have it?
From a Christian perspective, what you possess is creaturely will. And according to the New Testament, Jesus himself said, he who commits sin is a slave of sin. So your will has been enslaved to your nature, which is that of a fallen creature. And
But
so
I'm
we
predestined. God knows what's going to happen. I can't change God's will. I can't go against God's will. I'm physically incapable of doing anything against God's plan.
And as I said beforehand, you don't want to. I'm not sure why you keep raising a theoretical that isn't relevant to the situation.
But, sir, it is.
If you have the desire, that is the result of God's grace in your heart. But the point is that you do not have that desire. You do not desire to turn from him. And he's under no obligation to give to a rebel sinner that which the rebel sinner despises and hates.
So I am physically incapable of going against God's plan.
Well, I wouldn't use the term physically because we're talking...
I'm incapable. I'm incapable.
Well, I make the differentiation because I believe you to be a naturalistic materialist, and therefore I need to answer in an appropriate fashion.
Go for it.
And the Scriptures specifically say in Romans chapter 8 that those who are according to the flesh cannot submit themselves to the law of God. They cannot do what is pleasing before God. That is the biblical teaching.
And so I am doomed.
2 minutes.
Unless God, by his Spirit, grants to you spiritual life and raises you to spiritual life, that's exactly correct. You will continue to do exactly what your nature causes you to want to do, and that is to act in rebellion. And your particular form of rebellion is a form of atheism. But to be perfectly honest with you, I don't see any difference in the motivation, what motivates you to be an atheist, as what motivates people involved in false religion to do the greatest feats of religiosity. It's still rebellion against God.
And we have no choice in that matter.
No, you
Because
make the
in
choice
our-
every day.
We don't, because we cannot go against the will of God.
Is that a question, or are you arguing the point?
It's a discussion.
Okay, I understand, but we're supposed to be doing this in the form of questions. And so the question, see, you assumed something that I would have immediately challenged had you asked it in the form of a question. When you say you have no choice, I say you have all the choice in the world, but you don't have the desire. If you understood the nature of the will, especially as I think Jonathan Edwards very rightly brought it out in his massive treatise on the subject, you would know that the will operates on the desires presented to it by our nature. Your nature as a fallen person does not present to your will the desire to do what is right before God. Therefore, as Jesus said, you are enslaved to your sin.
I'm done.